So then guys, the next generation iPad Air is already in the works and we're looking to be getting some great new upgrades inside of it. But believe it or not, we've only had the current iPad Air now for around about 6 months and Apple are looking to do some big updates in early 2025. And today I want to tell you all the details about this. But first of all, let's talk about the current iPad Air. So the current iPad Air got announced in May 2024, like I said, around about 6 months ago. And with that, the most major sort of upgrades that we saw was obviously the M2 put inside of this. Because before that, we had the iPad Air M1, but now we have the iPad Air M2. So this was the same chip that came out at the end of 2022 that was put in the likes of the iPad Pro, and now this is inside the likes of the iPad Air in 2024. Apart from this, the other biggest change we saw was the introduction of a 12.9-inch iPad Air alongside the 10.9-inch, or as now Apple is saying, it's the 11-inch and technically the 13-inch if you want to sort of round up those numbers there for yourselves. But the actual design of this iPad Air is exactly the same as the M1 version and also the version before that, what had actually the A14 inside of it back in 2020. Nothing else really has changed. So we still actually have, say, the Touch ID on the top. We don't have Face ID. And then the actual body shape for this iPad Air, like I said, has stayed exactly the same, what's based on the old iPad Pro design. The only other kind of big change there was that the camera got rotated from the portrait to the landscape sort of view. But everything like the Magic Keyboard that was used before and all other accessories work perfectly fine with this iPad Air. But moving along then to this next generation iPad Air, what are we expecting to see this time? Well, probably the biggest change of all is going to be the new chipset that's going to be put inside of it. It's not going to be an M4 put inside of it. In fact, it's going to be an M3. Now, the M3 is made up of an 8-core CPU, and this is around about 30% faster than we had with the M2. And then the GPU is around about 15% faster, but one big main advantage that the M3 has is that it can actually do ray tracing and things like this, and this is really going to help out. And also the M3 is slightly more efficient than what we got with the M2, but what I'd personally say is don't expect any kind of sort of other sort of big kind of battery efficiencies. We're going to gain extra hours or anything like that at this stage. The only other thing to mention is that Apple could possibly even introduce 16 gigabytes of RAM as an option inside of the iPad Air. Right now, the iPad Air with the M2 only has 8 gigabytes of RAM, and this could potentially, like I said, be pushed up to 16 gigabytes, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens there from Apple. But one thing's definitely for sure, the likes of Apple Intelligence will work on this iPad Air just like how it works on the current iPad Air with the M2 and also the M1. So there's nothing to worry about there. The only other thing to also mention at this stage is that sadly we won't probably see anything like a Pro Motion display introduced into this iPad at any point. So we won't be getting, say, 120 Hertz or anything like that. It still will probably be 60 Hertz, so it's a bit of a disappointment to hear that. There is also the potential that Apple may even introduce that the USB-C port at the bottom can actually go up to, say, USB 3 speeds, because at the moment it's still actually USB 2 speeds. So yeah, maybe that might also change. Other things to mention that Apple may do with this new iPad Air is that we could see Wi-Fi 7, but personally I do not believe we're going to see this. I think it still will be Wi-Fi 6E, because I would actually say that the iPad Pro, you know, when that gets the M5 in the future, I'd probably say that's the first sort of device to get Wi-Fi 7. So personally I think we're still going to get Wi-Fi 6E inside of the current iPad Air coming out into 2025. The only other thing that we've also heard is that Apple are looking to create a brand new Magic Keyboard for the iPad Air, and most likely this will be similar to the one that we have with the new iPad Pro, mainly introducing those function buttons at the top of the keyboard, because this is the thing that the iPad Air is lacking. And it's quite crazy to think that the 2022 10th generation iPad with its folio sort of case and Magic trackpad and Magic Keyboard there, folio version, that has function keys, and then obviously now the iPad Pro in 2024 got those function keys too on the keyboard, but the iPad Air is still lacking this. So Apple needs to catch up there, and we would then essentially have three types of keyboards. We'd have one for the folios, and that would be for the 10th generation and potentially the 11th generation iPad. Then there would be one for the iPad Airs going forwards, and then obviously there's one for the iPad Pro. So yeah, it's going to be quite crazy. We'll have three sets of sort of magic sort of keyboards out there, and of course none of them will be compatible with each other. But one thing that could be compatible in your ecosystem could be the iPhone 16 Pro Max, and especially that I'm giving one away. So that's right guys, I'm giving away an iPhone 16 Pro Max, and this is the Desert Titanium model that you can see right here with 256 gigabytes of storage inside of it. And I'm going to be giving this away to one lucky subscriber near the end of December time, just before I'd say Christmas. So with that, all you have to do to enter into this giveaway at this stage at the moment is just put down into the comments below of what kind of technology gear that you're hoping to still get in 2024 and maybe even into the early part of 2025. It can be Apple related or non-Apple related. So you could be getting yourself a new M4 MacBook, it could be a new iPad, it could even be say an iPhone, or it could be something like I said, nothing to do with Apple. It could be a PS5 Pro, it could be a DJI Pro drone, it could be anything at all. Just put it down into the comments below right now. The other thing that I just want to quickly say to you guys is that like I said, I will be making a video near the end of December time giving a few more details about the giveaway. There will be a form to fill in too around that time for the giveaway, so you don't want to miss out on that. And I'll also be telling you when I'm going to be doing the live stream to give away this iPhone 16 Pro Max. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to this channel and also hit that notification bell, because you won't want to miss out on that video. And plus you need to be a subscriber anyway, because you know, giving this away to a subscriber. The last thing I just want to quickly say is that sadly there are still lots of scammers and spammers out there. People are still impersonating me too, telling you to WhatsApp, Telegram, or Instagram, direct message. Please do ignore these people, or better still, you can see right here, please do report them. So moving on then, release date and price. But just before I talk about that, one of those questions that you're probably also asking is, why doesn't the iPad Air get the M4 inside of it? Well, personally, I always think that Apple want to keep the iPad Pro ahead of the likes of the iPad Air. So for example, when we had the iPad Pro with the M2 inside of it, that one came out first, then we had the iPad Air with the M1 introduced. And just like what we had earlier in 2024, we had the M2 iPad Air, and then we had the likes of an M4 iPad Pro, and that was 2-generation sort of jump. And I think this is what Apple wants to do. They want to catch up the iPad Air to close enough to the iPad Pro, but not obviously the same level at this stage. Apple would need to introduce the likes of an iPad Pro M5 before they bring out an M4. And just in case you wanted to know, it doesn't look like that an M5 iPad Pro is going to be coming out the early part of 2025, but I'll be making a video about that soon. But the only thing what I would actually say to you guys is obviously don't expect it, like I said, to ever catch up with the Pro sort of series. It's always going to be a level behind, and that's why I think Apple want to do this sort of catch-up game here, why they want to put the M3 inside of the iPad Air, potentially into early 2025. And the reason why we believe it's going to be early 2025, because we've actually had this rumor or leak come in from Mark Gurman, who's quite reliable, and has actually said that it looks like Apple wanting to introduce this new chip into the iPad Air in the early part of 2025. Maybe we'll see this alongside say the new iPhone SE4 and potentially maybe another device or two, but this is when it's ideally going to be. So look towards, I would say, around about March to April sort of time 2025, when we're going to see the update to the iPad Air, and also we're going to get that new Magic Keyboard introduced to it too. For price though, the iPad Air right now starts at $599 US, and obviously this has got an M2 in it, so it's a bit older, but to have an M3 in it, this sounds quite a good deal, and especially that this is going to be technically the same cost as the likes of say a Mac Mini with an M4 in it, but you're getting a screen and things like this inside, so this is going to be really cool to have that M3. And personally, I do not think that Apple are going to change the starting price on that 11-inch model of $599 US. I think that will remain the same. And then the bigger brother iPad Air, so this is the 12.9-inch, 13-inch model. Well, that starts at the moment with the M2 for $799 US, and I think this will stay exactly the same when we get the M3 put inside of it. And also the baseline amount of storage, it was 128 gigabytes inside. I think personally this is going to stay exactly the same again this time round when we get that. But the only other kind of change we might see is we might see the introduction of maybe 1 or 2 extra colors or something like this. But really, that is going to be it for the iPad Air. But with that though, guys, are you excited for the next generation iPad Air with an M3 inside of it? Is something that you're going to personally get yourself? Let me know in the comments below. And with that as well, guys, it's time to wrap up this video. So if you have enjoyed watching it, please do press the like button. And also, if you want to hear the latest Apple news, reviews and comparisons, make sure you subscribe to this channel and also hit that notification bell. Until next time, guys, I'll see you really soon. Take care. Bye bye.